In this video, I'm going to try to provide you with an explanation of what can happen, and I want to stress the word can happen, if the weep screed for the stucco, the exterior wall stucco, actually gets buried in the dirt, soil, or gets covered with concrete. Now, this is for someone who recently had a job done where the concrete is right at the weep screed, and they're having a problem trying to figure out just what in the heck is going on. Should they remove the concrete? Is this going to be a big problem? Well, let me see if I can help you with that. In this picture, you can see that the weep screed is away from the soil. So realistically, any water that would get absorbed into the stucco through rain or even moisture in the air will actually have a way to drain out. Now, if you raise the soil level, you can see that this is no longer going to be possible. All of the moisture in the stucco would need to drain out somehow into the soil or into the lower area and hopefully evaporate out. So the purpose of the weep screed is to provide an area where moisture can actually work its way down. Gravity will pull the moisture down, and then out of the stucco, it'll drip out of the stucco, and that is what the weep screed is for. If you bury it, then it will not do its job. Here's an example of what could happen if you pour concrete, let's say a sidewalk or a driveway, patio, anything like that, next to the stucco, or where again it would be blocking the weep screed and wouldn't be allowing the weep screed to do its job. The soil can actually get wet, saturated, and of course this could happen through heavy rains. And I know this is hard to imagine, but one time I was doing a room addition and I had to cut into a footing on the interior of a home, and I believe I started this around June. So you're thinking, heck, we're going into the summer, everything's going to be okay, you know, the dirt should be dry. Well, I couldn't believe how wet the soil was. So the only thing I could imagine is that the ground around the perimeter of the home got so saturated from the winter rains, that even the spring rains, that it began to work its way under the concrete. And this is what happens. This is when you could really have problems with concrete, or a situation like this, where the concrete slab can actually pull moisture out of the soil. And if the concrete is next to the stucco will actually start to absorb moisture out of the concrete, pulling it up. It will continue to pull it up instead of gravity pulling the moisture down when the weep screed is open and exposed like it should be, away from the dirt and the concrete. You can have a situation like this where the moisture will absorb up into the stucco. And I've actually seen it either absorb up or remain in stucco and create damage at least 3 feet off of the ground. It's hard to imagine, but it can actually pull the moisture up, and that's the problem you're going to encounter. I'm sorry, that's the problem you could encounter if you have a situation where the soil or the concrete is above the weep screed. Now, don't forget, some homes do not have weep screeds, some older homes. This would be a common problem in these homes. But, and again, I can't stress this point enough, there are plenty of homes that never, and I repeat, never have a problem with the moisture wicking out of the soil, getting pulled out, and getting absorbed into the stucco and doing damage. But it is a possibility. Next up, I'd like to show you a picture of what the weep screed actually looks like. The black arrow is pointing to it, and you can see that there are holes in the bottom of it, allowing the moisture to drain out of the bottom, as long as it is not buried, of course. And you can see here that it was buried at one time. Of course, this was a home that did not have a weep screed. The stucco just ran into the soil past the building foundation. And of course, the water from the planter actually ruined this stucco, ruined it probably, like I was saying, about 3.5 feet. I believe the stucco was ruined. We just removed all of the stucco and redid it. Now, whether or not the homeowner buries this weep screed again will be up to them. I warned them not to. And of course, I didn't get to see the final result of that. Hopefully they have removed the planter. But again, these are problems you could have if you bury the weep screed, or if your stucco runs into the soil or into anything like concrete that can absorb the moisture and pull it into the stucco, and of course hold it there for long periods of time. Last but not least, this is what the stucco damage could look like if there was a high level of moisture that remained in this stucco, or was trapped in the stucco because it can't drain out of the weep screed for a long period of time. Now, if you live in a drier climate, an area where you don't receive a lot of rain, then you might not ever encounter a problem like this, no matter what the stucco looks like. Whether it goes into the ground, whether you have dirt piled up against it, or whether you have concrete. This would be more of a problem if you have moisture on a regular basis. Something to where you live in a climate to where it rains regularly, or it snows and you have snow melting up against a building. Then something like this could be a really big problem. So just keep that in mind.